Hello, passengers. Welcome aboard Long Walk Talks Lost. This is your pilot speaking. My name is David Hensley, and I'm the owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions. And tonight I am joined by my two co-pilots,
Robert Bradford
and Cara Hayes.
And we are continuing our Lost 20-year retrospective, this time with episodes 307, 308, and 309. That's season 3. And before we dive in, let's talk about our themed meal, because episode 307, Not in Portland, is about a new character, Dr. Juliet Burke, who, as we find out in this episode, used to be off the island a fertility doctor. Robert had the brilliant idea. Go ahead, Robert.
I decided we should have a meal focused around eggs.
Yeah.
So we had brunch with omelets. David, you brought bacon and sausage, and Cara, you contributed mimosa material.
Yes.
And it was delicious, because that omelet was fucking enormous, Robert.
Yeah, I do 3 eggs on all my omelets. I know some people like 2, but I don't believe in those sorts of 2/3 measures.
Exactly. Yeah, those people sound like monsters. I only ever want 3 egg omelets filled with ham cubes. There was a lot of discussion in our group chat about how upsetting I think the words meat cube
I mean, you discussed it.
Yeah, I couldn't let it go. I don't know why. Like, ham cube is just it doesn't
Would you prefer square of ham? A ham square?
Ham box?
Ham box.
Let's go with ham box. Okay. That was our themed meal, and we're going to start our discussion with episode 307, Not in Portland. Like I said, this is a Juliet episode, her first one, and it is day 73 on the island. Well, on an island, because now there are 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And first thing I put was 3 months later, because of the hiatus that happened. Why did I say it like that? Hiatus. The last episode 306, I Do, aired in November of 2006. This one aired in February of 2007.
I gotta say, it's perfectly fine as a follow-up, works well as the next episode. I don't remember having strong feelings about this at the time, but the resolution to, like, the big cliffhanger just feels kind of mad. Like, there are no actual big, like, status quo shifts or changes coming off of this dramatic, like, you know, Jack's like, run, save yourselves. Yeah, they run, they save themselves. Jack is still with the others. Ben lives.
But now Juliet's role in the whole hierarchy of the others has completely changed. And we find out that she will fucking kill a dude.
It is, I would say, the reason this episode, I think, does work is that it's like centering it around a character whose whole thing is that she's morally slippery even among the others. Sometimes that can be tricky because it's like, okay, if you don't know what's going on in a character's head, how do you connect them emotionally? But the contrast between who she was in the flashbacks and just the person who is clearly, like, reworking the game in her head, trying to figure out the best thing to do, it's a good through line.
Agreed. Well, right off the bat, they pull that old trick on us that they love so much, where you think you think the opening is happening on the island, but surprise, it's a flashback in America. And this time it's starting off with one of our best guest stars, Robin Weigert, as Juliet's sister.
I will always love her from Deadwood, where she played Calamity Jane, just the foul-mouthed, drunken, emotional wreck of a human being.
She's brilliant in everything she's been in, and
she ended up romancing the actress a character played by Cassidy's actress, so there was a little lost connection right there.
Fantastic. And then we get TV staple and TV icon. I might need some help pronouncing this, Robert.
I think it's Zelchko Ivanek.
There we go. He's been on a lot of things. He was on Heroes. He's one of those quintessential, like, hey, it's that guy kind of faces.
Just extremely recognizable, and just has made such a wonderful TV career for himself. Some film, but just mostly this guy shows up in drama and prestige television.
And which guy was this?
Juliet's shitty ex-husband.
Oh, that guy.
The perma-smirk.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah. See, I'm terrible with names and people.
The guy that's banging his inappropriately young assistant.
Research.
He stumbles on Juliet, like, sneaking into the lab at night, where it's implied she's been doing kind of some off-the-books work to try to help her sick sister. And her husband stumbles on her there because he's brought his lab assistant there to have sex with her. So it's just like, I guess everybody just walks away. Nobody has the right to call anybody out.
Well, and then like on her way out, he asked her to hit the lights,
Gosh.
which became a running joke for the three of us for the rest of the episode. Anytime we saw him, it didn't matter what context. It was like anytime we saw Juliet too, like
Hit the lights.
didn't matter where she was going. It was, hey, can you hit the lights on the way out? And then we get later in the episode a very special guest star. If you're a fan of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Rob McElhenney. Popping up as a random other who gets 2 scenes.
Apparently, for a lot of people, this was the equivalent of when Ed Sheeran was on Game of Thrones. They were just like, I hate this cameo so much. It breaks the reality of the show. It takes me out of it. And I'm just like, he's a working actor. I'm a little annoyed that, like, with him, you officially have an other who is just, like, clearly the butt of the joke to all the others. But, yeah, it's like, if you can't handle seeing an actor in multiple projects, sorry.
I mean,
Well-
that's kind of their job.
Yeah.
It is, except for the fact that Rob McElhenney is so closely associated with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia that a lot of people just cannot separate him. Like, we'll never be able to see him as anything other than Mac.
Oh, well, it's a good thing I don't know anything about the show. Was it going on at the time that Lost
Oh, yeah.
was? Oh, I have
It
no
is
idea.
still going on today. That show will not ever die.
Oh.
I don't say that with desire. I'm just like, it is a very long-lived show.
It is, yeah. It's
Wow.
well, it turns 20 this year, so it would have been in its 2nd or 3rd season
Oh, cripes.
at the time that he was in this episode of Lost.
Now I wish they'd gotten Glenn Howerton to play Jacob.
Oh my God! Just the crossover we didn't know we needed. Get the entire It's Always Sunny cast in there. Right after this, I wrote down. I can't remember why I put this down. Somebody's gonna have to jog my memory. Kate's an action star again.
Well, because that whole thing where the cliffhanger of the last episode ends with like her and Sawyer have guns pointed on them, and she's like screaming and sobbing at Sawyer, like, don't give up, don't let them do it, implying that if he doesn't save them, they're all gonna die. And then we start this episode, and she immediately like knocks the gun out of her attacker's hand and like flips it on him, and she and Sawyer just kind of effortlessly turn the tables. So, yeah, cool. She's back to being the badass gun-toting bank robber again.
Yeah, and I
For a
don't
minute.
for a minute, and I don't want to jinx it either. But is this like when the moment? Does this mark the moment when the writers stopped hating her?
For a minute?
Because I feel like things are on the up and up for Kate past this. They're getting to where they're sort of going to iron out the love triangle / quadrangle. And I don't know. I could be completely wrong. We'll find out in a few episodes.
Yeah, I don't remember any scenes that made me throw stuff against a wall with her, but we'll see. But yeah, I think I mentioned it already that this episode really does fun things with Juliet. It's revealed in the surgery by Jack that she'd asked him to kill Ben. And then that kind of breaks her alliance. So she tells Tom, he's not going to let Ben die. Don't let him bluff us. And so she's just kind of shifting her allegiance again and again throughout the episode.
Yes, Juliet also remembered what the Hippocratic Oath is. But still, like, if I were Jack, I'd have been like, no, fuck you. I will let this man bleed out. We're not in a hospital. We're in a dingy operating room on a shitty island.
I don't think they have the board of medical whatever doctor things.
Right. What fucking review board is he going to go up in front of?
It's also funny
Tom.
because he ends up almost accidentally killing Ben. Like later in the episode, he accidentally nicks something, which he admits he's like, yeah, no, this time that wasn't on purpose, and has to frantically scramble to keep his hostage alive so he can die later if the plan doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole setup for this was when this is later in the episode, but when Kate and Sawyer do get away, Kate is supposed to radio him and relay the story, the very first thing he told her, so that he knows she's not in distress, that they are actually getting away free. And the story is about how the first time he fucked up a surgery, he sliced somebody's like an artery open and had to count to 5 because he was terrified. As she's recounting the story over the radio, you can see Tom Friendly standing next to Jack just turn and look at him like, hey, what the fuck?
Great reaction shot from MC Gainey. He just honestly has a very good episode, having to like manage all of the crazy personnel crises that are going on while Ben's under anesthesia, and just it's a nice little showcase for him. Just he's kind of faded in the background as we meet more of the others.
this is the story of how Juliet ended up on the island, how she got recruited out of doing tests on, fertility tests on women, including her sister, like kind of off the books. And she was recruited to the island not by the Dharma Initiative directly, but through a company called Middleos Bioscience, which at the time the internet immediately went crazy for, because what does Middleos spell out?
Well, I just figured it out today.
Lost time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Which is one, a pun, and two, going to pay off in the next episode. Three, going to pay off, continue to pay off throughout the rest of the show. I don't know if the writers knew that at the time, but yes, it's Lost Time Bioscience.
Yeah. I'd mentioned it when we first met Juliet, that her last name Burke was a reference to Edmund Burke, the conservative philosopher. I'd forgotten that her ex-husband's actual name is Edmund. I forgot they'd actually gone all the way, and we even get a full shot of his nameplate on the desk.
Mm-hmm.
And who was Edmund Burke?
He was a Scottish-English philosopher known for just kind of articulating... he opposed the French Revolution and was a staunch advocate of like more restrained, measured social improvement. Most famous quote attributed to him, though he may not have actually said it, was all that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. It's a thought that he'd expressed, but he may not have actually said those words. So not by no accounts the kind of douchebag that Juliet's ex-husband was, but
yeah, not a 1-to-1 here.
No.
And so as Kate and Sawyer are escaping through the jungle, we not only get a jungle run check-in, this is our first jungle run gunfight.
I am surprised it took us to the third season.
Yeah, especially since they established the suitcase full of guns way early in season 1. We've never had like a running gunfight before, but now we get one with Kate and Sawyer on the run from Pickett and the others. So that was neat. And around this whole time, they get rescued by the other known as Alex, a.k.a. The daughter of, what's her name?
Rousseau.
Rousseau.
Yeah, Danielle Rousseau, thank you. And the adopted daughter, as you find out, of Ben Linus.
I was trying to remember if this was the episode, if we'd had that confirmed before, because she's mentioned like my dad a couple of times, but I think this is the first time that it's actually confirmed on screen that, Ben is who she's talking about.
Yep. We don't know the circumstances yet, whether, like he kidnapped her or how he came to be her adopted / stepdad, whatever you want to call it. I guess not stepdad, adopted dad.
Abduction is, we don't know that yet, but...
Yeah.
Abducted dad.
There we go. She's back with that slingshot that we talked about last time. She is a very young woman, but still too old to be running around with a fucking slingshot, believably.
But maybe she can't be trusted with a gun. Maybe she sucks at shooting things.
Maybe she does. Maybe she's just really bad with the bolo. That's the one thing she's the one other who never got a hold on the bolo.
Yeah.
But it's during this time and throughout the episode that we get our Sawyer nickname watch check-in, and we get a couple of good ones. He refers to Alex as both Sheena and Underdog. And then later he calls Carl Cheech. Kind of a softball nickname there because Carl has been drugged and is a little bit loopy. But we'll get to that in a minute.
We also get to see the very creepy moment where Ben wakes up from anesthesia in the middle of his procedure and is still immobilized, but is just kind of like whisper talking from his position face down on the table, and somehow Michael Emerson finds a whole new register of creep to play in this character.
That honestly is something I would hate to do. Wake up in the middle of surgery. Ugh.
Well, don't ever have brain surgery then.
I'm not planning on it.
Because you know that they keep you awake during that.
Yes. Listen, I wanted to be kept awake for my hand surgery. I wanted to see them do it, and they wouldn't.
That seems like a whole different kind of like, I don't really, you can't see what's going on in your brain. I don't want to be looking at the inside workings of my hands.
I do.
Oh.
That's why I had them take pictures.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Oh, man. There's a lot to unpack there. Off island in Juliet's flashback, we get the first appearance of one of this show's most famous characters, fan favorite Richard Alpert.
And his magnificent guy liner.
Yes, although apparently that is just the way his eyes look.
That is unfair.
Rude.
It looks so good.
Yeah. You might recognize him as the mayor in The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. And that's the only thing that comes to mind
No,
immediately.
he was on a sitcom.
He was
or,
Batmanuel on The Tick.
No, it was before that probably. I can't remember, but yes, he's been in something else.
He just had a role on Shogun, the miniseries that FX did, playing, I think, a Portuguese navigator. A very different kind of role, but he's a lot of fun in that. Apparently, he was only supposed to be in this one episode, but the producers really liked working with him, and the fans were immediately just like, oh, what's this guy's deal? It must be super mysterious. And the creators were like, sure, we can do something like that.
Totes. And here we get the first mention of something that gets thrown around a lot on this show. Richard says that Juliet is special. And it's during this meeting that Juliet tells him the only way she's going to be able to come to work for Middleos Bioscience, because that's just fun to say, is if her ex-husband gets hit by a bus. Surely that won't be important later.
No. Would you call that Chekhov's bus?
I suppose. Yeah.
Well, that's definitely some foreshadowing. And then I think around this time we get Sawyer and Kate burst into the place where Carl is being held, because Alex has said she's got a boat, she can help them get off the island, but only if they help her save Carl. And this involves tricking Aldo, who I describe as the butt monkey of the others, with the, oh, they're prisoners, oh no, they're not prisoners, and they're taking you down.
Yes, as Sawyer explicitly calls it, the old Wookiee prisoner gag. Yeah, poor Rob McElhenney. 2 scenes knocked out by Kate. And she tells Sawyer that if he doesn't cop to how to get into the facility, shoot him in the knee. Because, yeah, Kate's fully back in badass mode again.
We get the classic bit inside where Sawyer's all, wow, I thought, I couldn't tell you were bluffing. And Kate's like, I wasn't bluffing.
Yeah, they really leaned into it this time. I think after I Do, they were like, fuck, we got to do something with Kate. She's the worst. What they are rescuing Carl from is he is locked in a room with his eyes strapped open, drugged up, getting, as I put it, the Clockwork Orange treatment.
And I mean, like those magnification glasses, holy shit.
Yeah.
That would have hurt my eyes. Just ugh.
In real life, it's known as the Ludovico technique, and not a fun thing. But he's being brainwashed, I guess, by Ben to not want to fuck his daughter.
Yeah, that's established to ultimately be Ben's whole goal with this.
Yeah. Make this horny teenager less horny.
The only other girl his age on the island, sure, good luck with that. One of the things, no, sorry, that was your note there, David.
No, you're the one who pointed it out. One of the texts that pops across the screen during this like series of images that is being like force fed into Carl's brain is God loves you as he loved Jacob, which is our second mention so far of an individual. Well, I mean, that's a line from the Bible.
Yeah. I mean, it's a reference to the story of Jacob and Esau, 2 brothers, and Jacob was the one who was chosen to be sort of the ancestor of the Israelite people. So it's sort of the story of like God favoring one sibling over another.
Yep. This is the second time that the name Jacob has gotten mentioned, I guess I should say, because in the last episode, Pickett mentioned that Jack wasn't on Jacob's list. So we're building towards the revelation that there's a higher power than Ben on the island. But it's still going to be a minute before we find out exactly who Jacob is or before we see him.
We also get so off the island, Juliet finds out that her sister, who I think is implied to have cancer, possibly ovarian, and so pregnancy is extremely difficult for her, and Juliet has managed to successfully impregnate her sister. That sounds wrong. And you get this really lovely scene where like her sister is both sobbing like with joy and with just, all the overwhelming. And Robin Weigert just has a wonderful sobbing face. It's just such a great, and yeah, she and Elizabeth Mitchell play off each other really well. I don't remember if we ever see Juliet's sister again. I don't think we do, but it's a really fun introduction.
No, I don't think we do either. But Juliet goes from finding this out from her sister straight to tell her boss / shitty ex-husband, Dr. Edmund Burke, that her treatments that she's been doing off the book and also, so therefore, like, maybe illegally, definitely not kosher.
Definitely some ethical problems.
Yeah, there's some ethical implications there. But anyway, she goes to tell him this, and he just kind of blows it off because she has no intention on publishing her works. And as he steps off the sidewalk, he steps directly in the path of an oncoming bus, therefore fulfilling the prophecy she accidentally made a few scenes earlier.
You get the it's the classic off-screen bus that's like it's perfectly silent until maybe a second before it enters the frame. Like it is just stealth engine until it actually needs to be visible.
They do it in Final Destination, definitely in the first one. I think they might pull it off a few times in the Final Destination movies.
They're showing it in the preview for the latest one, so I think that's just kind of a running theme of the series at this point.
And then it's not a bus, but there's the classic Meet Joe Black, where Brad Pitt gets pinballed between a couple of passing cars, and it's hilarious. But as I put it in the notes, Juliet's ex got the Regina George treatment, if there are any Mean Girls fans out there.
I feel
and
bad.
that's how Regina George died.
It's
Spoiler.
again, a terrible thing that happens to people in real life, and I don't want to make light of it, but there's no way to depict that visually that doesn't, like, it's just got the construction of slapstick is the problem. So when you film it, it's just, there's an inevitably kind of a, oh my gosh, reaction. And Elizabeth Mitchell reacts to it really well with both shock and then just kind of, to use another great Rachel McAdams line, oh no, he died. Face. And back on the island, so we do eventually get to the place on the beach where Pickett chases down Kate and Sawyer, but is shot dead by Juliet, who then gives the radio to Kate, and she tells the story back to Jack. And this is where the dial kind of goes back to a little damselly. I mean, she's not exactly in distress, but she's very sobby and weepy as she repeats the story back to him. I get it. She thinks she's leaving him and that they'll never see each other again. It still feels a little over-delivered. And then it occurred to me actually afterwards, I was like, but then the first time Jack told her this story, we talked about it. Matthew Fox was really hamming that up. So maybe she was like, I guess I got to tell it like he did. You were so scared and you didn't know what to do. It's just like, yeah, that's how he told me.
You almost expected to turn into that scary movie joke when they were parodying the Blair Witch Project, where like snot just gets more and more prolific the longer she goes on, like as she continues crying.
We do get another of what is something I'd forgotten Lost does so well, a triumphant boat launch. We ended season 1 with the raft being launched, and it's this really great soaring moment. And even this is just Jack, Kate, Sawyer, and Carl getting into like a little like canoe raft and pushing off to the other island. It is still just a nice moment of them finally making their escape and getting out of the place they've been all season. Juliet gets back, and I forget the context of this, but she describes the others as they to Jack in the third person, suggest like I think they know they're very upset with me. So just kind of a hint that she's not on the same side she was when we met her. And then back off island, she confronts Richard Alpert about the hit by a bus thing, and we see Ethan now with Richard, and they're both doing the, I don't remember you saying that, a bus, who said anything about a bus? And both actors play it just in this perfect register of like, our tones are soothing, our words are reassuring, but they're just a little too polished, and it just makes it scarier.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a great opportunity for William Mapother to come back again as Ethan. And we've talked about it before. He's now appeared on the show more times after his character died than when he was alive. We're also running into the problem of the longer this show goes on and the more kind of flashbacks they do, the older these actors start to look, because William Mapother is noticeably older here than he was in the first or even the second season of the show. And this is supposed to be 3 years earlier.
Well, to be fair, nobody is seeing it as quickly as we are right now, like back in the day.
That's a good point.
So it would have been a very long time.
Yeah.
I'll hand wave it as the island is rejuvenating for him. So, once he's back there, he starts looking younger.
There we go. I like that explanation. Well said, Robert. Well, next, we're going to move on to episode 308, one of the most famous and beloved episodes of this show, Flashes Before Your Eyes. It's still day 73, and this is a Desmond episode. And why did I write down the island killed him?
I'm sorry.
They were talking about Mr. Echo.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes.
Locke and Saeed, and their only appearance across all 3 of these episodes passed the news to Charlie and Hurley and Desmond, who just happens to be nearby, that Echo has been killed.
Yeah, but it gets a great reaction out of Hurley when John tells them that the island killed Mr. Echo and does not elaborate, does not explain that any further, just the island killed him, which I thought was hilarious. And we get another jungle run immediately after this because something spooks Desmond and he takes off through the jungle in another jungle run. We love watching Desmond run.
Yeah.
It's how we met him, like way back in Jack's flashback. He was doing the Tour de Stade. He was, gearing up for his jungle run even back then.
That motherfucker can run. It turns out that he is running back to the beach to rescue Claire, who's gone for her morning swim and got carried out with the tide and is drowning. He refuses Charlie's offers to help, goes out by himself, pulls her back in. There's some shenanigans involving like why he won't give Charlie a straight answer. But at this point, Hurley has figured out that Desmond knows more than he is letting on. And I wrote down, God bless Jorge Garcia for delivering this line. That guy sees the future, dude, with complete sincerity. He is one of the few actors on the show who could have pulled off a line like that.
Well, they've set him up for it because, all across the run of the show to this point, he's been the guy who just has the, dude, what if it's this? Like, what if that thing out in the jungle's a dinosaur? Or, hey, dude, what if we're hearing this music from another time? And it's just like, yeah, okay, so but now one of his theories actually does line up with reality. Not a great moment for Charlie, who after coming off as more likable and friendly at the start of season 3, gets really pissy at Desmond for not letting him help more, even though Desmond has successfully pulled Claire out of the water and resuscitated her. So it just kind of comes off as Charlie being mad that somebody else is helping Claire.
Well, and I think Charlie forgot he can't swim.
Yes, and which actually ends up being a plot point later in the episode. I will say I do like overall what this episode does with Charlie, especially in his last scene. But there was a minute where I was just like, oh no, we're not back to this again, are we?
Right. Charlie and Hurley's plan to get the information they want out of Desmond is to get him drunk. However, the thing that neither of them are accounting for is that Desmond is damn near a professional drinker. I guess being Scottish has something to do with that because they ply him with whiskey.
McCutcheon, a bottle he recognizes.
Yes. This is a pet peeve of mine in any kind of media. We love a hardcore drinker in our movies, in our TV shows. You just sort of ignore the rules of how alcohol works. A heavy drinker, is going to be able to outdrink his friends, but he's still going to get fucked up, and the alcohol is still going to affect him. So when they've already been drinking for what is presumably a few hours, and Desmond just tips up that bottle and takes huge chugs from it, I'm like, okay, you're going to be passed out soon and getting sick and throwing up on yourselves, and somebody's going to have to roll you on your side. But anyway, this is a TV show and not real life, and that's why.
The island is special.
Exactly.
The island is replaced his liver time and time and time again.
Exactly.
Not his kidney, though.
No one will get his kidney back. It is nice, honestly, just to have a scene where they're like, even if Charlie and Hurley are doing it as a pretext, they're just, sitting around a fire, or Charlie and Desmond are singing, drinking songs, and it's actually just, I was like, it's been a while since we got to just see characters hanging out and enjoying themselves a little bit. Doesn't last, but it's a cute scene. I also noted this down because the credits are going across the screen. This episode was written by Drew Goddard and Damon Lindelof, who's one of the showrunners. Lindelof, again, apart from running this show, went on to create The Leftovers. He did the Watchmen series for HBO. Drew Goddard was a writer on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel. He wrote the scripts for Cloverfield, The Martian, and he he co-wrote and directed The Cabin in the Woods. Mm-hmm. So just all I'm saying is this episode is written by two real heavy hitters for genre television, and it shows because this episode is just, again, I liked the one before it, and we'll get to what comes after. But already, we took notes, but like we were kind of snarking and commenting on the other ones as they went. This one we just kind of watched. Like it is just it's such a good episode of television and so well written, so well performed.
Yeah, there are a couple episodes this season that really could have stood to have that duo writing them instead of what we got.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
So eventually, Charlie confronts him about the seeing the future thing, and when Desmond won't give him a straight answer, calls him a coward, leading Desmond to tackle him, and then immediately flash back to what happened to him after he turned the failsafe key at the end of season 2, which is he woke up in an apartment he was sharing with Penny, and just seemed to be back living the life he had years before he wound up on the boat and headed for the island. We immediately get the classic TV film and TV trope where characters talk about how crappy and rundown their apartments are, and they're living in a frickin' palace.
Yeah.
Like he's got like 14-foot high ceilings, just wide open spaces.
Not a roach in sight.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, these are not poor people's. Well, I mean, we know that Penny has money, but it's established that she moved into what is supposed to be Desmond's shitty apartment. But if you had told me this was hers, I would have believed you.
Yep.
Robert, you already mentioned that. We were all very tuned in during this episode. Continuing in the flashback, Desmond goes to ask Penny's father, Charles Widmore, for permission to marry her. And he gives a very condescending speech to Desmond, but not before we find out from Desmond's resume. This is really only cool for the three of us, being the fucking theater nerds that we are. There was a time where Desmond was previously a set designer for the Royal Shakespeare Company.
That's just neat.
It is.
Jealous.
It's a great little scene just because, I mean, Alan Dale is so vicious with that monologue about, because he takes out a bottle of whiskey in 2 glasses and then pours just 1 glass, which he drinks while telling Desmond how he's just not even worth drinking the whiskey. So how could he be worth marrying this guy's daughter?
Hurtful.
It's also nice because we get like little bits here and there that Desmond feels like something's off, that he's not quite sure about being in the right place. And so what could just be a continuity error, like as we cut like back and forth in the shots of Desmond and Charles Widmore in the conversation, the tie Desmond's wearing is kind of in and out of his jacket, which is tucked and untucked at different times. I'm not normally someone who notices that stuff, but I was just kind of like, is that deliberate? Is that supposed to be kind of an offness of all this?
Didn't even notice it.
It feels very Room 237 to me, which is the documentary that was made about Stanley Kubrick's The Shining by people who had entirely too much fucking time on their hands, because they go into things like, are these continuity errors deliberate? And I'm sorry, but if you spend enough time watching movies or TV shows, continuity errors happen. But Robert's point is valid here that if Desmond is reliving this, then it makes sense that we might be actually stitching this story together from different points. Which is just fascinating. And it struck me as, I can't remember if they ever explicitly call it this, but I think of it as Desmond becoming unstuck in time, which is a phrase that was made famous by Kurt Vonnegut in Slaughterhouse-Five. And is something, being unstuck in time is going to be something that's important in later seasons as well, due to more island shenanigans and bright lights and such.
Wish I could be unstuck in time.
Well, the show's going to give you kind of the pros and cons of that whole thing.
Very much so.
Cons, that'd be fine.
You already addressed how shitty Charles Widmore is.
Yeah, our strategy of doing beat-by-beat notes is hard because there were so many things that I just kind of went back and thought about, or just seeing the episode as a whole. So it's hard to just go like point on this.
Yeah, especially with an episode like this. We're all unstuck in time. So next we're going to talk about episode 317 before we move on to the beginning of season 4. Try to keep up with that. When Desmond dejectedly leaves Charles Widmore's office and angrily whips off that tie and throws it on the ground, who does he encounter on the streets of London in 1996? But Charlie, busking on a street corner singing Wonderwall. We're finally bringing the Oasis comparisons full circle.
And just to tease out the end of the episode, the first lyrics that Desmond hears him sing are, "You're gonna save me."
Yep.
But never mind.
So Desmond, and I'm reminded of the old John Mulaney bit where he describes the plot of Back to the Future. In a stroke of luck, one of Desmond's best friends happens to be a theoretical physicist. And so he goes over and chats with him about like, I think I'm living time, or I've been sent back in time. If any of us thought we were being unstuck in time, who would we go to? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, I read this question wrong. I'm sorry. I thought that where would any of us go?
Oh.
I had an answer prepared for that. Oh, God. Who would I go to?
Yeah, like if you want to just touch base with somebody to either, one, help you figure it out, or two, like, okay, this is the most important thing I can do, being jumped like 10 years in the past.
Oh, you two go first. I have to rethink what well, let me give you my incorrect answer to the question. I thought I misread this entirely. If I were unstuck in time, I would want to go back to the years 2008 through 2010 and just relive all of that again. So, yeah. Who would I go to? Cara, you go first.
It's a big question, fair.
It is. And I mean, because it's like, it kind of depends on how I feel about, like, do I think I'm crazy? Because if so, like, I'm not going to go to anybody who could do something bad if I went crazy or something. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who I would reveal that to, because that's huge. And like,
it would also really depend on where we come out at, because Desmond, I guess, got lucky. He came out at a time when his, theoretical physicist friend was still working at a university. If I became unstuck in time and popped back to 1996, I'd be 10 years old and probably lack the faculties to properly explain my situation to somebody.
See, that would be 1996.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that was my drunk year in college. So
Maybe it did happen and you're not even...
Listen, I mean, I'd have been like, no, of course it is. What about you?
Ooh, I was kind of mulling it over a lot, and I was just like, I don't know. I guess I'd probably just go like hang out with some people. Who was I hanging out with in 1996? Yeah, I would have been 8 years old, so not a lot going on.
Well, okay. So Desmond flashes back 8 years.
Yeah,
from 2004 to 2000, or from 2004 to 1996.
So we were in 2017.
Yeah.
So, all of us at that point were with our significant others, so I guess I'd hope we try to at least loop them in.
Katie and I would have just gotten married. So, yeah, it would have had to be her.
I would have been dating Gina for a little over a year at that point, so I'm not sure I would have felt totally confident bringing that up at that stage of the relationship.
That's fair. Well, after meeting Charlie and hearing Wonderwall, he proceeds on and meets another new character that's going to become more important as the show goes on, Eloise Hawking, which is a very subtle nod to another famous person, Stephen Hawking. But,
that guy.
Yeah, him.
R.I.P. It is a nice scene because at first she just seems like somebody in a jewelry shop because he's planning to buy a ring and propose to Penny. And she shows him a good one and he looks at it and he's like, I'm going to buy it. And then she looks at him and goes, you don't buy the ring. And she just explains to him that what he's doing is wrong and he needs to go out and break things up with Penny, and just the increasing like confusion turning to slight fear on Henry and Cusick's face. It's just a very nice moment. Like, we'll talk a lot in the next episode about like the attempt to bring weird otherworldliness into the path of our characters and how that can be incredibly dumb. In this episode, like, we already know Desmond is in a weird place, but it still feels like such a creepy scene to have just this person snap out of one mode and into the other to like tell him you're not in the right place and you're doing the wrong thing. Eventually she takes him out and kind of sets him straight about like what he's supposed to be doing. Desmond's first instinct is to think this is somebody that Charles Widmore is trying to get to scare me off. We do eventually find out there is a connection between Eloise Hawking and Charles Widmore, but Desmond is way off about what that connection is. A big point she makes is that the universe has a way of course correcting, which she demonstrates by pointing out a guy to Desmond who dies when some construction material falls on him. And when Desmond asks, well, why didn't you warn him? She's like, well, then he would have been hit by a cab tomorrow, and if I'd warned him about the cab, he would have slipped and broken his neck in the shower. And we will also find out eventually that the idea of death being something inevitable that can't be postponed if the universe wants it bad enough is a very personal thing for Eloise.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Final Destination.
Well, there's that too, yeah.
Yeah. We get the origin of the marina photo that Desmond has looked at a couple of times of him and Penny in happier times. And just, again, a nice reminder that like everything that we're watching is just an unreality. They're not actually standing in front of a harbor. They're at like just one of those photo stands, and the guy pulls down a backdrop of the marina. So even this like cherished memory that he has in reality is a fabrication, which is it's such fun writing. They're just so much. They put so much in every scene, and it's a reminder of what this show can be, and is like when it really gets cooking. I think I'd mentioned before, my wife Gina is watching it again with us, and I'm so glad we got this episode because I could just see her like lighting up for the show again after some dodginess in the early going of the third season.
Yeah, and it was around this time that I wrote down that Juliet and Penelope both seem like course corrections of their own in how women on this show are written, because these two are light years ahead of pretty much every other female character we've had on the show so far. Wishy-washy Kate, defined by being pregnant and then being a mother, Claire, the like abused housewife in in Son. Now we get like two characters that actually feel like honest to God people, which is very nice.
It would have been so easy to write that scene where Desmond decides he has to break up with Penny to just have her, cry, why are you doing this? This isn't right. But I love that she throws his reasons back in his face when he tries to claim like, oh, I can't provide for you. And she's like, I don't care about that. I gave you a chance to do it otherwise. Don't pretend that this is about... Like, it's nice to see her get angry and stand up a little bit. And again, it makes their relationship feel like a real partnership between two people, which is going to make the story we already know is happening, that Penny is looking for Desmond and literally chasing him all over the world, feel that much more resonant.
It would have been nice to hear her be like, bitch, I'm rich. Yeah, I don't need you to provide for me. Sorry, continue.
Oh, that was it. Just that, like you said, it's great that we met Penelope back at the end of season 2, but this is kind of our proper introduction to her as a recurring character. And yeah, between her and Juliet, it does feel like the show has found its footing a little bit more. And hopefully we'll do a better job with its recurring existing characters going forward.
Yeah. Well, eventually Desmond gets knocked out of his time in 1996 and goes all the way back to the island post, turning the key, and proceeds on from there to where we eventually see him on the beach with Charlie and Hurley. And this is where the writers are really starting to have fun with how the flashbacks work. This is our first instance of changing up that formula, and it won't be the last, because the last episode of this season is going to kick everybody in the side of the head. I cannot fucking wait to get there.
But the idea that this isn't just like something Desmond's remembering, that he actually relived the stuff we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a nice moment for Charlie that I think brings him back from the kind of snottiness earlier in the episode, where despite Desmond angrily attacking him, he then carries drunk Desmond home and sets him down in his tent in a very two mates coming back from the pub sort of way. And his reward for that is for Desmond to reveal that even though it seemed like all of his actions were saving Claire, he was actually saving Charlie, who would have been hit by the lightning strike while he was standing near Claire's tent, who would have drowned trying to get Claire out of the water. And Desmond finally hits him with, no matter what I do, you're going to die, Charlie. And we are on course to one of the show's most unforgettable moments.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea. Like back when this first aired, okay, we're all going to die someday. Oh my God.
Yeah. And
it hurts worse now.
It does. And when we do get to the end of the season, we're going to hopefully be watching this with Gina, who is not going to be okay.
My favorite thing is she thinks she knows what that's saying. She thinks that's from the very end of the show.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
so
bless.
But before we get to better times, guys, it's time for episode 309, Stranger in a Strange Land. It's days 73 through 74 on. God, day 73 is finally fucking over.
Yay!
And into day 74, and this is a Jack episode. But not only is this a Jack episode, it's a very special Jack episode where we find out about, drumroll please, the origins of Jack's tattoos and the time he spent in Thailand.
All that fan mail is finally answered.
And the very first thing I wrote down is, much like following Echo's last episode with I Do felt like a cruel joke, following up Desmond's episode with this is equally cruel. We went from what is universally recognized as one of the best episodes of this show into what is definitely recognized as the worst episode of this show.
People involved in it have agreed with it. Like the showrunners have come back and admitted it. I'll defend Nikki and Paulo slightly this season, but I got nothing good to say on this one.
We're just going to kind of jog through this one, but what we can say, the one nice thing that we can say about this episode is that this is what made the showrunners go to ABC and say, we can't do any more fucking filler episodes like this. We have to have an end date so that we can start preparing and moving the story forward to that. So from here on out, it's all kill or no filler, and the show is a lot better off for it. Although we are, I think, a few episodes away from the episode where Sawyer and Hurley have a ping pong battle on the beach.
There can still be subplots, but not like entire episodes that just feel like they have no reason to be.
But anyway, yeah, so Jack was in Thailand. He met Bailing, whatever. On the island, Kate and Sawyer are paddling their little boat from Hydra Island back to the main island, and she tells Sawyer that she wants to turn around and go back for Jack. The one thing that he specifically asked her not to do. I guess I forgot about this when I said, hey, I feel like Kate's back on the right track.
Nobody's on the right track this episode.
No.
I don't hold this against any of the characters.
Yeah. So Tom Friendly, MC Gainey's character, goes to find Jack. It's like not too long after Ben's surgery, after Jack successfully saved him, and tells him that they're going to move him, which Jack takes to mean they're going to kill him. So he finally calls Mr. Friendly out on the fact that, hey, you guys kidnapped a child and killed a man on the beach and hung another one from a tree and have done all kinds of horrible shit. So it's really nice to finally hear somebody point this out to these assholes.
Because the others have occasionally made a thing like, Jack, we're the good guys, or what kind of people do you think we are, Jack?
But that leads Mr. Friendly, I'm paraphrasing here, he goes up to the window separating the two cells and he's like, hey, you see this glass house you're in, Jack? Do you want a few more stones to throw? And it's like, what the fuck, man?
That feels like a line that got pitched in the writer's room once they came up with this location, and this was their last chance to use that set, so they were like, we got to have him say it. And it's like, is there any conceivable reason that Mr. Friendly could claim a moral high ground on Jack? No, but he should say it anyway. Because, yeah, again, we've seen our main characters do some messed up stuff. There's been some emotional gray stuff. Don't think they've kidnapped any pregnant others, Don't think they've ever, broken every bone in a man's hands prior to murdering him. Like, the darkest thing we saw was, Ben get tortured, which, not fun, but Ben is 100% okay.
Yeah, but this episode does give us another Sawyer nickname watch check-in, because he and Kate and Carl do eventually make it back to the main island, where Sawyer refers to Ben as Captain Bunny Killer, a callback to Sawyer's last episode. He refers to Kate as Magellan, Carl as Bobby from the Brady Bunch, a reference that goes completely over Carl's head. And he calls Alex Sally Slingshot, which, if I were Alex, that's the insult that would have made me go, maybe I should put away the slingshot, get myself a real weapon, like a fucking bolo.
Generally speaking, the less said about the flashbacks, the better, but we do get a scene where Jack meets this woman in Thailand and starts to talk about, his dad and all the angst that's led him to take a vacation here, and she just cuts him off with, Jack, I have no interest in your father, which is a clear sign that this character does not belong on this show. We get another new character, Isabel, who's described as the sheriff other, and he's brought in to sort of investigate Juliet after her murder, or her killing of Pickett. I had no memory of that character, and I actually looked up the actress and was like, oh, this is her only appearance. So, okay, another one that's just like, no harm, no foul. Nothing in this episode counts.
Yeah, she's another Mrs. Clue. Or Miss Clue.
Well, Miss Clue is going to come back very briefly. Like, they at least bother to write her off the show. But Isabel is just, like, introduced as, like, oh, this is like the law enforcement of the others. That's interesting. And then, no, that's just this one episode. We do get the reappearance of Cindy the stewardess, who...
And what a weird fucking scene this is.
Like, they all gather around Jack's cage to just kind of stare at him. And in their defense, he's, like, screaming and sweating like a crazy person. So I guess it is kind of interesting. We see one of the two kids who was taken off the tail survivor section of the beach comes up and asks how Ana Lucia is doing, and Jack doesn't really answer. He just keeps screaming and sweating, but that's an awkward moment. And then back on the main island that Sawyer and Kate have arrived at, Carl is just going off to cry because he's had a rough couple of days and he may never see his girlfriend again. And Sawyer sneers at him for crying in the jungle, which... What have you all been doing this whole time? There is not a single survivor who has not had a good island cry. Let him have that, Sawyer.
And also, poor Carl is coming down off of mood-altering drugs.
He's having quite a crash there. It's just, again, the whole thing with the Thailand episode... Magic tattoos. Let's just go there. This woman is a magic tattoo artist who sees people and gives them magic tattoos that, like, reveal their soul or whatever. And it's just the weirdest kind of, like... ooh, strange, exotic Asia writing that you just, it was cringe back then, thankfully, at least at the time, people were like, this is probably dated and weird. This episode was co-written by a Korean-American woman. Like, that's the weirdest thing to me, is to see Christine Kim, who's a staff writer for the show, and I think a story producer for the future seasons as well. It's just like, nobody raised the flag and was like, maybe we shouldn't treat Thai people as if they're like magical nomads or whatever. Ugh.
But we do find out in this episode, we get official confirmation that Ethan's job off island, and I guess on the island as well, is that he was a surgeon, which makes that whole breaking every bone in somebody's body thing make more sense in retrospect, in as much as any of that can make sense. I mean, he also like did a full neck lift of Charlie, or was it Charlie that he just lifted full off the ground like a fucking Terminator?
Yeah, when he's threatening him to try to get Claire back.
Yeah, and we can also now add Thailand to the list of places that they successfully, well, to some degree of successful, turned Hawaii into. It's been LA, it's been Korea, it's been Iraq and or Afghanistan, it's been England. Where else? Now Thailand.
I don't think it's been South America yet. I think that, South America might be the only and Antarctica, I guess, might be the only continents not represented yet by the Oahu scenery. Yeah, we get the dramatic reveal in flashback when Jack tracks down Bailing to her workplace, and he's like, oh, so you're a tattoo artist? And she goes, I am not a tattoo artist. And it's meant to be this big dramatic reveal, and Bailing doesn't exactly cover herself in glory this episode, but I don't think there is an actress alive who could have sold that like it's a dramatic reveal.
And also immediately after this, she goes on to put a tattoo on Jack in an artistry kind of fashion, one could say.
Yeah, but it's what she does, man. It's not who she is. Yeah, she tells him that when she looks at him, she sees a leader and a great man, because... it's a confident moment in the writer's room when you're like, we should have a character say this out loud about our protagonist. That's... I think Jack Shepherd is ultimately there are bumps in the road, but I ultimately love what they do with this character and this journey, but oh my gosh, this just seems like the moment of the writers having the lowest confidence in themselves and what they're doing. Like, there have been flashbacks, and like you said, this was the one where the showrunners were like, okay, we can't keep doing this anymore, we're spinning our wheels. And we've had a lot of stories that just kind of told us again, like, Saeed is someone who wrestles with his violent past, and Locke is someone who's just easily manipulated due to his need for belonging and meaning, and Jack has daddy issues and a savior complex. This is the first one where I'm just like, I have no idea what we're supposed to take away from this about Jack. It's incoherent, and the only way it even ties into the on present stuff in the island is that Isabel asks Jack about his tattoos, and Juliet ends up getting branded as her punishment for killing Danny.
Well, supposedly the tattoo means he walks among them, but he is not one of them, which is really on the nose given his presence in the others. But the Isabel, the sheriff of the others, quote unquote, reads that out loud to him. She tells him, your tattoo, it means he walks among them, but he is not one of them. And he looks at her and he says, that's what it says, but that's not what it means. What the fuck does that line mean? That's what it says, but it's not what it means. Anyway, I went out last night and I got that exact same tattoo.
Also,
It's on my lower back.
Awesome.
Also, apparently, that's not actually what it says. That's the Chinese characters on Michael Fox's or Matthew Fox's arms don't mean that. I forget. I looked it up at one point, but yeah, the whole point of the episode builds up to just them saying that the tattoos mean something that they don't.
Yeah.
Wow.
What a waste of damn time. We also get a regression of Juliet, because really all she does, like, her fate is being decided, like, will she be punished? And literally all the action is Jack running around and trying to make a deal with Ben. And Juliet just sits around waiting for someone to show up and save her, which Jack ends up doing. And it's,
Via Ben. Let me ask you guys, is this episode as bad as you remembered it? I'll go first and say yes, it was.
I didn't remember this episode, and it was as bad as I didn't remember.
Yeah, it's such a low point. There have been some bumpy ones, but nothing that is good in the show is in this episode.
No. In fact, I added by Ling's I am not a tattoo artist to our list of best line deliveries, including I married her and you want your $30 back, I want my kidney back. We'll wrap up really quickly here with more relevant dates. It was around this time in history, 20 years ago. May 4th, 2005 was The Greater Good.
The Greater Good.
Did I update this? I can't remember. Maybe I did. Maybe these might be the same things that I read last time. Today is, we're recording this on Wednesday, May 7th. So the closest one was season 5, 16 years ago on May 6th, 2009, Follow the Leader, episode 515. Guys, if people want to, well, how are we feeling about social media these days? Where are we at on that whole thing?
I am very happy with the thing we've been doing where we just talk about something else we're doing instead of social media.
Go ahead.
I've been listening to the soundtrack for the movie Sinners over and over again because that movie rocked and the music rocked and everybody should go see it.
Well, now I have to check out the soundtrack and the movie.
Yes, you definitely need to see the movie.
Agreed.
I want to see it again. Kara, what about you?
I'm still making my way through Skeleton Crew. I'm about a third of the way into Grandma, which,
Nice.
yeah. So
Love it. I am still on Instagram at DB Hensley if you would like to follow me on there, or don't, whatever, I'm not your boss. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us to see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming. You can follow the YouTube links in the show notes.
For listeners in the Rock Hill, Charlotte area, there is, by the way, an event this weekend. Free Reign Theater Company, the group we all work with, is producing 12 Angry Jurors at the Getty Center in Rock Hill, directed by
My wife, Katie Bearden, my wife.
fantastic show. So you know the famous movie 12 Angry Men. Turns out jurors can be women now. So
what?
I was as shocked as anybody when I showed up at the dress rehearsal. I thought there'd been a terrible mistake, but no. So it's a fantastic show. Great it's not even a courtroom, jury room drama. So it's running. There's a Pay What You Can on Thursday.
Yes, pay what you can tomorrow night.
And then the show proper opens runs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday afternoon this weekend and next.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Robert. And listeners, thank you very much for listening. And if you enjoy this show or any of the shows on the Long Walk Podcast Network, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening on. And also feel free to tell us what thing you're not